This is Jim Stewart with Breaking into SAP. I'm here to talk about SAP in real life and what training can never really give you, but which coaching, like the kind I'm providing, actually can. So anyhow, the problem with SAP jobs, right, they all require experience. And it's impossible to acquire this experience unless you yourself already have a job. So I call this the catch-22. And what I have done is I've designed a program that helps students take the matters into their own hands and get themselves the experience they need to start working in SAP. So what you do, you get yourself access to an IDES and ECC system and start executing some real-time examples. It's also very important to know what it's like to work on a real project so you can speak with real credibility and real confidence about the work that you're going to do. The framework I use to talk about real-life projects is the SDLC, the Software Development Lifecycle. And anybody who works on a project knows about the SDLC, and that's how they talk about projects. The interesting thing is that usually this is the domain of project managers. Project managers talk about SDLC because it's their job to manage it, but they're the ones who are usually intimately familiar with requirements gathering, moving throughout the different phases and scheduling the projects, things like this. So one technique you can use, and I suggest you use, is to learn as much as you can about projects and the software development lifecycle, and so you know how to talk about it, and so you can talk about it with confidence and real credibility. So the software development lifecycle, all projects start with initiation and project preparation, where they talk about the scope, the dates, the schedules, the resources required. Then moves into blueprinting, then into a realization or construction phase, then final preparation. Now this right here is the ASAP methodology. If you're used to a more typical project management methodology, realization is often called construction. Final preparation will be called testing, integration testing, and go live could be cutover. So in blueprinting, you're always establishing scope. You're talking about requirements. What is in scope? What is out of scope? What is a requirement? What is not actually the requirement? And you need to think of blueprinting as actually an extended negotiation with the client of what software we're going to build to meet what requirements and what is out of scope. One thing that often is overlooked is getting a formal sign-off on the blueprint. So if I was in an interview talking about blueprinting, I would say, yes, on my last project, we made a point of getting sign-off on the blueprint to make sure that the user knew it was an accurate representation of scope. And if I heard somebody talk about blueprinting or SDLC like that on an interview, I'd hire them, because it's just one of these things that demonstrates that somebody's really been on a project, they really know what they're talking about. And so that's why I'm passing it on to you here and in my course, Breaking into SAP, so you can know these things, you can talk about them, and you can use them to land at your next job in SAP. So what have you learned in this training, this short little training here? If you're talking about blueprinting, this means you're talking about scope and requirements. So if you remember two things and write them down, blueprinting is about scope and requirements. What you're really after is to gain some credibility talking about blueprinting. And when you talk about projects in this way, you'll have the confidence, and you'll have real credibility in your interview. And when you have credibility, you'll have lots of offers for employment on your desk. Now, breaking into SAP, I have in-depth training about all phases of the software development lifecycle. It's video training, it's live real-time project examples, and when you hear my voice and you go through this training and you watch the videos that I provide and you go through the real-time examples, that conveys real confidence and real credibility that's going to help you on your interview. And so, to summarize, what clients are really interested in hearing from you, they're going to say lots of things. They say want the experience in all these different areas, but what they really want is confidence, and they really want credibility. One thing you can do to obtain that is to study the software development lifecycle, know it by the back of your hand, be able to talk about it, and to understand these key words. Like if you're talking about blueprinting, talk about scope and talk about requirements. And finally, I have a program called Breaking into SAP, where I talk and I provide video training that is in-depth software development lifecycle, real-time examples that gives you the confidence and the credibility you need. So, if you like this video, if you enjoy the training and the videos that I've created on YouTube, if you like that stuff, you're going to love Breaking into SAP, which goes into great detail, and it's hours and hours of of training, real-time project examples, and access to a live system so you can actually practice and actually gain that experience you need to have the confidence on your next interview. So Jim Stewart, breaking into SAP, I hope you join.